How do we get started with one of these things? I've done a podcast before.
Hey guys, welcome.
That's perfect. Hey guys, welcome. This is Alex Ihrig. Am I pronouncing your name right? Ihrig?
Yeah.
Okay. Mark Joseph. I think I've done one podcast before.
Yeah, I was a guest on one once a few years back, and it was easy when you're not hosting it because you just
Was it here in Naples?
Yeah, 239 Uncensored.
What was that about?
They wanted to know about UC breaking news and how so kind of similar. The way we're going to start out, kind of similar, same thing. Just kind of talking and how I got things started, and
All right.
that was a few years ago.
So for the people at home who follow UC breaking news, but have never been able to put a face to the company, the news agency, who are you?
So my name is Alex Ihrig. I was born in Georgia, but moved to Naples when I was 4. So basically grew up here. I hear back and forth people. Some people have been raised here. Some people are transplants. So I guess it's not too common that you hear someone that's lived here for a while. But yeah, we moved here in 99, and I'm 30 now. So grew up down here. And let's see, with the page, I mean, I was serving as a firefighter in Immokalee. Did that right out of high school. Volunteered for about a year and a half to kind of get my foot in the door, let them know who I was. And they say when you volunteer as a firefighter, it's like every day's a job interview, because you kind of get to prove yourself, but you're doing it voluntarily and out of your, you had to do 48 hours a month, with the department. So
what was the position you started off as? Because I've deposed a couple of firefighters.
Yeah, I mean, just firefighter, EMT. You're riding in the back, but within a couple months, because we're a smaller department out there, I was already driving the trucks, and so that was cool. But I was there for about 5 years total. But during that time, started the page, just because I worked in Immokalee, and I actually also got to work as their community relations coordinator. So I actually ran their social media. I ran their Facebook, their Twitter. I interacted with
for the station
news for the station,
really? Okay.
And got to schedule public events, CPR classes, anything that was public relations. I was in charge of for a couple of years. But that kind of got me into photography and social media and doing all that. And I lived in Naples though, and I felt that news coverage in Naples wasn't what I thought it should be. And I'd seen there were other guys like out in LA and other big cities that had made a business out of shooting breaking news stories and selling that footage to the TV stations. So I'm like, man, I'd really like to get into that. And it was a good hobby. It was fun to do. I did it for a little bit as a hobby, very short, because
what year was this?
This was December of 2017. So
okay. That was a while ago,
yeah. So we've been, the page has been around for about eight and a half years now. But I'm like, hey, let me give it a shot. Made a Facebook page, started posting stuff, and there's always this, this thought that the news sweeps things under the rug. And I don't know how true. I don't know how true that is, because I mean, stuff gets news coverage. Maybe we put it out faster, or maybe we put a little bit more effort into that initial getting to the scene and making people aware of what's going on. But eventually it hits, if it's a murder, it's going to hit the news. It's going to be covered somewhat. But a lot of people don't watch TV news nowadays.
Oh, that's fair.
They don't get the newspaper delivered anymore. It's if those are your traditional sources, or that's what you're using to gauge, the news doesn't cover. Are you even watching? I don't know, but the stuff does get coverage, but you got to be there at 5 o'clock. We're so busy. You got to be there at 5 o'clock to watch. So social media, with that taking off now, it made sense. I don't have a TV station. I don't want to have a newspaper. I don't have a radio station. I can make an Instagram account. I can make a Facebook account. I can make a TikTok, whatever. I'll do that, So started posting there, and the page grew pretty quickly. Within the first year, maybe 10,000 followers on Facebook. Good. I was just doing Naples, really. So just Naples. If something happened down on Marco, I'd end up down there, Golden Gate Estates, Immokalee. Because obviously I'm working out there. I knew when stuff was going on out there, so I'd run out there if there was something. But I just felt that the coverage was lacking, and all the TV stations are based in Lee County. So they have to send a reporter down, if something happens overnight or something happens during the day. Sometimes they only have like a reporter or two stationed. And if they're too busy at a county commissioner meeting and they can't break away to cover something else, then I kind of picked up the slack in that sense. So there was a house fire down in East Naples. It was December. It was Christmas Day, and house caught fire, and I happened to be sitting at IHOP 5 minutes away, and ran over there, and that was like the first like big incident that was like significant that I shot, and I sent it to NBC2. I sent it to I think Fox 4. I sent it to a couple of the networks, and said, hey, I just shot this footage. This is something you guys would be interested in purchasing. And NBC, they got back to me quickly and they said, our news director's out of town. He's gone for winter break, whatever. So we can't approve using this footage, but we like it. And he's gonna reach out to you when he gets back. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. So as soon as he got back in touch with me, and we got contract in place. And they were just paying me. They said, if you only sell to us, we'll pay you more than if you sell to everyone. If you sell to Wink, you sell to Fox, then we're only going to give you like $25, an instant. I'm like, well, that'll pay for my gas and, but all right. And they said, well, we'll give you $125 if you sell just to us. And I'm like, all right, yeah, sure. That's money. Again, I already had a job, and I was just doing it on my days off. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I was after. I want make money selling stuff to the news, so that it worked out. So did that exclusively with them for a number of years. And then once they transitioned to Hearst, there was kind of an opportunity to kind of renegotiate, and then ended up bringing Wink on, started working with them, Fox 4 as well. But now Wink just took up and absorbed Fox 4. So now we work with Gulf Coast News now is what they're called. And then Wink News we still disseminate footage with them, but we've allowed the social media to continue to grow to where it is today. So.
Now, are those the two main media agencies?
Yeah, I mean, they're for TV. Yeah, now you've that's all you got now for TV. Okay. I mean, obviously radio is still there, and then locally you've got the Naples Daily News, you've got News Press that are still operating. But again, I mean, there's still a place for those things for those people that tune into that, but especially for the younger demographic. Social media is where it's at, and where we've continued to gain a lot of momentum. So it's been good.
So you said you're 30, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, for everyone who's watching, you more than likely do not know who I am unless I represented you in, let's say, a car accident or some sort of litigation matter. My name's Mark Joseph. I am 33 years old. Was born and raised in Naples, Florida. So unlike you're from Georgia, which I didn't know, by the way. I wouldn't.
You learn something new every day.
Yeah, I literally thought you were from Naples, just like me. I thought you were like a day oneer. But I'm a day oneer from Naples, NCH downtown. Shout out to them. They probably do not like me, if I'm being honest. I think I've filed suit or threatened to file suit a couple of times. There's no one I wouldn't sue, just for the people out there who want to know that. Well, actually, I probably wouldn't sue a church. I had a case once where someone came to me and they wanted to. I was like, I can't. I'm Christian, so I was like, I don't feel too comfortable doing that. But other than that, nothing's off limits. But yeah, so I'm an attorney. I've practiced personal injury, commercial litigation, general liability since 2019. I was actually at a firm before I started law school in 2016. Hey, Brooke. Thank you. You bought another bottle for us? Yeah. Brooke is back here. Brooke, you are the general manager. Are you camera shy, Brooke?
Right now?
You are. Okay. All right. Well, Brooke is amazing. She heads everything over here at Warren. Give a shout out to Warren. We're actually in their lounge right now. It's a very beautiful space, as you can tell. And she was very, very kind enough to let us use this space for our very first podcast. So shout out to Brooke. Thank you, Brooke.
Thank you.
What was I? I don't remember.
Law.
Yeah.
You're working for another firm.
Oh yeah. So I started before I became an attorney. Before I started law school, I actually worked at a firm in downtown Fort Myers. I was living here at the time, I graduated from UF, did accounting over there, and talked to my mom. I was like, hey, you have that one attorney friend. Can you ask them if I could have a job? And she did, and he called me, and I had a job. And so I worked for them throughout law school, did a lot of personal injury with them, which was a good time, and then went to law school, graduated law school, and started doing personal injury with them for about a year and a half to a year and 10 months. and then I broke out on my own. So now I am the principal attorney, if you will, of Joseph Law, PLLC. We do personal injury, commercial litigation, general liability. I'm that law firm that Alex will give a shout out to at the bottom of every
For the
post.
times.
Yeah, for the times you need an attorney. That's our slogan. Remember that. To the extent that you guys have any sort of injury or litigation matter, give us a call. Give us a shout out. We'll see if we can help you. It would be our pleasure. But it's funny because the way I met Alex was the most unfortunate of circumstances. I was actually, I'd seen the page a couple of times. I don't know how I saw the page. People share things and stuff like that. But I saw the page on Facebook. I was like, this is really cool, right? I think this company's local. They're posting on all this stuff that's happening. I'm seeing, stabbings and shootings and car accidents. Not that in and of itself is cool, but the fact that there's, someone out there that's willing to report on this stuff that, quite frankly, I hadn't really seen much of before. Mm-hmm. I know you said earlier that you were asking, or you weighed the question of whether this stuff was actually happening before, if the news agencies were reporting on it or not, right? It's probably more likely that we just weren't watching the news or something like that. Yeah. But when I was a kid, I would watch the news because my parents would watch the news, and I would see, some major car accident or something like that, or some wrongful death, but never to the extent that I see what you're posting on a daily basis. Yeah. And before I met you, that was what really caught me to the page. I was like, is this stuff really happening in Naples? Is it really happening in Fort Myers? Because it's happening all the time. And the question that came to my mind was, are we getting worse?
Right.
Is crime on the rise? Or was it already there and we're only getting visibility because of you?
We're on our phones all the time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer
that's the thing.
to
I don't
that.
have the statistics. I didn't come prepared with that information. But I mean, the reality is you see that a lot in the comments section where people will be like, I've never seen this before. This never happens. And then you have people who are like, well, I've lived here for forever and it's always happened and you're just seeing it now. And I think both are are true. Sometimes there's waves, where you'll have you get these times where you have like 4 vehicle rollovers in a week, and we post those back to back to back. And you got people in the comments saying it's the Naples, anti-gravity vortex that's, making the cars. I'm like, I got to make that into a shirt or something, it's the Collier County, vortex. It's making all the cars flip over, and it's funny. But social media definitely, in any case of any topic or whatever, it's in your face more regardless. So I think that is definitely probably the main contributor, is that now it's here, now it's apparent, and it's something that if you're following it, it's gonna and the posts do get quite a bit of engagement. Yeah. It's gonna keep pushing that content so that people see it, so. You
get a lot of engagement, man. I read those comments sometimes, and
people love to debate and give their thoughts, and we appreciate it.
No, I mean, it's a good thing, right? It's good when the community engages with these posts, right? One, it gives it more of a reach out there in the community, and 2, it's good to see what their thoughts are, right? How upset they are about these things, because quite frankly, you should be upset. You should be upset when there's a hit and run. You should be upset when there's a stabbing. You should be so upset you go to your local government and you tell them, hey, we probably need a stop sign here, or hey, we probably need a traffic light here so that we can avoid a situation like this. So the engagement is perfect, right? Even when people are calling me an ambulance chaser or something along the lines, right? I see comments like those. I actually I look at those and I get a giggle sometimes. You guys get very, very creative in some of the insults that you can throw. But I've got a tough exterior, so I'm good. But back to what I was saying. So I saw these posts and I was like, I got to meet this guy. And sure enough, I ended up in the hospital, I think probably like...
I think it was late 2023, I think.
It might have been 2024.
2024, okay.
But I after I was like, after I saw your page, I saw what you were doing, I was like, dang, I want to meet this guy. Well, for one reason or the other, I ended up in the hospital in excruciating pain. And I had a a nurse. I don't remember his name, but he was
Ethan Natvig, great friend of mine. We grew up together, and he actually owns Tremoto, those kits. He makes these motorcycle.
Is that him?
Yes, that's him. Yep.
He's a nurse at.
So he was a nurse at NCH. He left his job there, and now he's full time doing the. They're basically trauma kits that are small, compact, like tactical kits that motorcyclists ride. And I mean, he's tens of thousands of followers now, and many packs sold. And I think he just attributed maybe a 13th or 14th life that's like been saved by those kits, and he's selling them internationally, and yeah, it's been great.
I didn't know that was him, because I remember you telling me about that guy who had the kits for the motorcycles. I didn't know he was the nurse. I saw him outside of Venture X actually once. I should have stopped him and said hey, but I was in the hospital, and there was this nurse, and for whatever reason, I don't even know how we got onto it. I don't even know how I was able to speak. I was in so much pain, but for whatever reason, I just mentioned UC breaking news. He's like, yo, I know that guy. He's a very good friend of mine. And I'm over there. I'm like, yo, give me the strongest thing you can to make this pain go away. Okay. And, but we're having this one conversation about UC. It's like, I know that. I was like, do you really? Can you put me in touch with him?
Yeah.
I would love to.
I remember the text. I mean, I was home, and he's like, hey, you looking for sponsors? I'm like, yeah, I got nothing right now. So yeah, Yeah, I was like, I would love to collab with him. And he sends me your number. I text you. Eventually I get better. I'm out the hospital and we meet up, and that's how our partnership started. And you said you hadn't advertised or done it, like it was all word of mouth stuff from before.
Yeah.
So it's kind of your first diving into any kind of advertising space.
Yeah. For me, I'm a big word of mouth proponent. I think the work that we perform should speak for itself. Definitely. Right. And I like that I have clients that will refer me to other people that they know that have an issue, whether that's a personal injury matter, whether that's a commercial litigation matter, or an insurance dispute, for property damage to your roof. Right. I love when they can be able to do that, because those are the strongest types of referrals you can have, right? But I also wanted to get into something a little bit more expansive, and you were an opportunity for that. You were posting on the type of stuff that I practice, right? When a hurricane comes through and you've got, your roof is falling apart, I can help you with those types of claims. When it comes to dealing with your insurance adjuster, when it comes to dealing with the contractor, that's the type of work that we do, right? Along with the personal injury stuff. So I thought it was a good opportunity, but also on top of that, I just love the content that you do. I know we've talked about some disagreements I have with regards to some of the posts, and what's going on, what type of pictures are being taken. But I mean, it's your baby, it's your thing. You do what you think is best. And I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech. And more so than me, maybe not agreeing with some of the photos that go up. I think the benefit that arises from them is too great to set aside. Yeah. Right? Because I've seen comments on social media about, you only post certain things for sensationalism, right? And having known you, coming to know you, I don't agree with that, one. But two, even if that were the case, I think it's important to effectuate change in our community. Definitely. Right? In Collier County and Lee County, I think sometimes you have to have those pictures that make you uncomfortable so people get upset enough, right? So that stuff like this doesn't happen anymore. Yep. When a car flips over, right, and someone dies as a result of that, or, there's a shooting or stabbing and someone dies as a result of that, there are laws we can implement, or at the very least, if they already are implemented, we can make known, right? So people are deterred from doing conduct like that, right? From driving recklessly and negligently. And the type of content that you post that is real, right? That is life, which you cannot escape. It's important that people see that. I know that makes us uncomfortable, but it's important that people see that so that they get in their hearts that I don't want to see this crap anymore, right? It's not UC Breaking News' fault. They're just posting what's there. They're posting what's life, right? It's the people who are engaged in this type of conduct. It's our community leaders, right? That we need to be on to, hey, we need something to change here because we want our kids to stop dying, right? We want these fires to stop happening in these areas, okay? We want people to stop driving aggressively and recklessly, right? And there are different ways we can do that. And there are different laws that are already in place that I think people need to know about. And hopefully over the course of time through this podcast, we can make them aware of, right? That may deter someone from doing something reckless or negligently, right?
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I mean, the content is what it is from the beginning. I mean, uncensored breaking news. I mean, that is what it is. We're not a gore page. We're not going to expose people's identity and put them on blast, as it were. But yeah, it is the harsh reality of things that happen in our communities. And there have been times where change has been affected. I mean, one instance I think of is a fatal crash at Mockley Road and Logan Boulevard a couple years back, where a woman was killed tragically, taking her son and his friend to school, driving him in the car. And a tanker truck ran a red light for whatever reason, distraction or whatever. And he ran that light. And again, the footage that we took was sold to the local media. And even 2 years later, they're still replaying that drone footage as now the first thing that was done was, you'll notice a lot of intersections, they've added those blue lights above the posts. And basically when that blue light is activated, that means that the red light signal under that light is activated as well. And that's just for enforcement. So it used to be that a deputy or a police officer would have to see the red light itself and then see you run it, and then they could pull you over. But now, because that red light is connected to that blue light that's 360, you can see it from any part of the intersection. Now, if someone were to run a red light, they have like the legal basis, I guess, to be able to pull someone over. So that was an immediate change. They added that at a bunch of intersections across Collier County very quickly. That was approved by the commissioners within a couple months after that crash, because they're like, there was so much outcry. We have to do something to try to beef up enforcement or something to make people think a little bit more about running red lights and then potentially killing someone, just, especially if you're operating a large motor vehicle like that or so it's, that's something where we've seen direct change. And then in other things, I mean, again, I don't have the statistics, but fatal crashes in Collier County are down 100% because there have just been fewer for us to need to respond to and cover. And that's a marked change for sure. So, is it because of our efforts? I can't attribute it directly, but it is out there, and it is making people hopefully think twice about looking for motorcycles, looking, for driving impaired, different things like that. So do those posts become the most viral because of what? Yeah. So it is what it is. That's what people. The saying goes, if it bleeds, it leads. That's an age-old saying, that things that are of a more severe nature are naturally going to be more viral, are going to be more talked about, are going to have more reach on social media, as opposed to cat stuck in a tree or whatever, feel good story. Okay, it's nice, but it is what it is when it comes to that.
Have you ever posted a cat being stuck in a tree?
When I was working for a Mockley, I feel like we had something in a drain or in a tree or something where we had to use our truck. I forget the exact, but not with UC Breaking News. Not that.
That was a joke, but the fact that you thought about that very hard, you actually probably have, is actually incredible. That's wild.
You had whales stuck on the beach. That happened a couple months ago.
I remember that. I saw that one. Yeah. You got some very good footage of that.
Yeah. The drone's a beautiful thing.
I'm always impressed by the quality of the pictures and the videos.
That's another. So we'll talk about that. That's another kind of angle. It was the lack of coverage or visual coverage of whatever the incident was. Because you can pull up a Florida Highway Patrol report of a crash and just put a stock photo of a Florida Highway Patrol car and then give the synopsis of what happened. And anyone can do that. But actually going to the scene, being there when the incident is actually occurring and showing what actually happened, and where people, there's enough detail in our photos where people are literally in the comments trying to reconstruct what happened, and you talk, well, I think I see skid marks here. So without the level of detail with the things that we post, people wouldn't be able to do that, so it's just it's a byproduct of it. But high quality images, lot of image, a lot of video, whatever it is, to put these things not on display, but to cover them accurately and to cover them thoroughly, I guess is the right way to put it. So I saw that when I was first starting out. I'm like, let me put my drone up. I've been flying my drone probably good 8-9 years. I've had a drone. So I mean they've been crucial, to being able to get the shots that we get, because sometimes limited access, whether it's geographically or there's a crime scene and you don't want to mess with the crime scene, so it's easier to fly the drone. Just can get shots that you can't always get from the ground, but it is what it is. It's a tool. So, but yeah.
So we've got quite a bit I think we want to talk about today. But before we get into, let's say, some of the incidences that you've posted on, I know there's some crashes, some stabbings and the like that we want to talk about. Before we get into that stuff, let's talk about names, because you said earlier uncensored breaking news. Now, when we first started, or at least when I first met you and we started our partnership, I could have sworn you gave me a different name than uncensored breaking news. And I see comments about what it stands for. Let's set the record straight if we can.
Yeah. So people ask a lot, and it's too much of a convoluted story, whatever. So anyway, I'll make it as short and sweet as possible. So before my page existed, there was a pit, and people maybe seen the movie Nightcrawler. A Nightcrawler.
I watched it because of you.
Or a stringer is kind of the term for people like us, especially in other markets where it's more prevalent, like Los Angeles and other places where you got guys with cameras who are independent photojournalists that do that same thing, where they get to the scene quick. They get those great shots of things, and they typically sell them to the local media. That's their business. That's their bread and butter. So a former Wink News photographer, his name's Elias, good buddy of mine, he had a page called United Crawlers. And basically, he would post stuff that was happening around the world or around the US that was interesting, breaking news stuff. And then he also, and I guess he was allowed by his, by Wink allowed him to do this. While he was a photographer for them, they would let him pull out his phone and take pictures of whatever, if he showed up at a crash or if he showed up at a fire or something breaking like that. And he would just post stuff. And it was the first page in Naples that was doing that kind of thing, was getting you like quick access to things happening right now. He would go live on Facebook or live on Periscope at the time. That's what it used to be called, Twitter's live streaming, and or X now, as they call it. And he would do that. So people loved the page. I think he had maybe 6,000-7,000 followers, and it was people liked that coverage. It was something that didn't exist, in Naples at the time. So again, friend of mine, and I said, hey, I kind of want to get into what you're doing, but I kind of want to do it a little bit differently. I just want to focus on breaking stories that are local. I don't want to post national. I want it to be different. I don't want to copy what you're doing. I want to do my own thing. Yeah. And dude, whatever you want to do, bro. Like, it's fine. And we'd show up on scenes together. He was working for Wink. I was working for myself, doing. And I just made the page. I added breaking news to it and kind of abbreviated it. And what was nice was he kind of used his page as a jumpstart for mine, because as soon as I posted content, he'd repost it to his followers that he already had. And he would say, hey, give this guy a follow. He's kind of doing what I'm doing, but a little bit different. And, within a couple weeks, like, the page already had like 1,000 followers, because of people that were interested in the same, it was the same demographic of people that wanted to see the local coverage, but just in a different way. And also, I didn't have the constraints of working for a big, TV station, where he had, if the TV station told him to go over here, he had to be over here, where I could just go to the stuff that I, wanted to show up to. So yes, United Crawlers was the original, UC breaking news, with the breaking news added onto it to kind of differentiate it. But then within a few months, he left Wink and he moved to the East Coast, and then it was just me that was left, and he shut his page down, and it continued on to where it was. But it's much easier to I just spent 5 minutes explaining that. It's uncensored breaking news. Today and it fits, but then that's the thing. Well, then we'll blur something, and I thought this is uncensored breaking news. Why are you blurring stuff? Hey, we don't want to be disrespectful, so we're, we'll put blurring where needed, but for the most part, pretty raw, pretty uncensored, and it's in the name now. So,
okay.
So there you go. Little history.
For whatever reason, I was thinking, I got it completely wrong. For whatever reason in my head, I was thinking ultimate, Ultimate Crawlers, not United. I don't know where I got that from. My bad.
No, it's all good.
Okay, so started off as United Crawlers, kind of morphed into Uncensored.
Yeah, it just made sense. We also kind of came up with there was an awkward period where I said it just means it's UC. It just means you like you're seeing something. You get this eyewitness news.
I like that too. That's cool.
So we had a little slogan. It was in the Instagram bio for a little bit. You see it, we shoot it. And so we ran with that for a little bit. But then I was like, I don't know if that
bring that back. That's good. Give us your votes in the comments. Okay, that's interesting. All right, so
there you go. Some history.
So we know about UC breaking news. What are we calling this podcast? I don't know. Do we have a name for the podcast? Is it UC Breaking News Podcast?
I mean, I guess
UC
for now it's an
podcast?
easy. I don't know. It's
The Breaking. I like that.
yeah.
The Breaking.
We'd have to check.
Podcast?
We'd have to check trademarks. We'll have to see who exists already.
He should be the attorney. That's that's fair. Let's check some trademarks. Okay. All right. So I mean, we've got. I think you have some stories we want to go over. Some incidents that were posted. Maybe in the last month or so.
Yeah.
That we want to kind of talk about and give some backup or some background information to, if you have any additional information about them.
Before we get to that, the only other thing I was thinking about was a lot of people want to know. We cover a lot of incidents. Yeah. We're all over the place. We're from Port Charlotte to Marco Island. We're everywhere. Immokalee, we're all over. How many people are working for me? Or how many people are a part of UC Breaking News? So it's actually just 2 people. So it's me. I started in Collier County. And then a friend of mine, Kevin, he's 18 and a great photographer. He has his drone cert as well. And so he gets a lot of the good shots that you see. But he is based in Fort Myers. So he basically kind of covers the north, district, as it were, and I'm kind of down in the south. I'll venture up to Estero or Bonita, or if he's tied up on something, I could run up. But with traffic and these days, it can be hard if you're in Naples to get to something in Cape Coral, let's say, in a timely manner. So Kevin, he had a page. Southwest Florida Uncensored, if anyone who follows remember that page and was a former follower of that. And he was starting to blow up. I mean, I think he had about 20,000 followers when I kind of found his I'd seen the page before when it was smaller, and I was like, oh, okay, there's a guy in Fort, small time,
then he got big,
small potatoes.
You couldn't have that.
He blew up like, hey,
I gotta stop that.
I think we could work. I think it's better if we work together. We're kind of encroaching on, So no, it made sense. I met up with him. There was unfortunately, there was a fatal crash on State Road 82 about a little over 2 years ago that was the first incident that we ran together, but I was still doing my thing, he was still doing his thing. That's where I met him. And shortly after that, just told him, hey man, we should work together and let's figure something out. So he ended up, same kind of thing, shutting his page down, telling his followers to come follow my page. And there was a little bit of backlash at first because Lee County people we're used to following Southwest Florida Uncensored and seeing Lee County only stuff because that's all he was covering. And the same thing with Collier. I was only really covering Collier. I'd venture up occasionally to Lee County, but the majority of my content was for the Collier following. So as soon as this kind of came together and you had people in Cape Coral who were like, well, I don't care about what's happening in Naples. I don't want to see that. Like I followed this page because it's Lee County. And then same thing with people in Colorado. Well, I live in Naples. I don't care what's happening in Lehigh. Port Charlotte. It's not, that's not in my area. So there was a little bit of backlash for the first few weeks. But the reality is the TV news, they cover from, anywhere from Arcadia to Northport, all the way down to Marco. And people are fine with it. It's okay. There's no backlash because it's something that they're already used to. So again, it took a few months kind of for things to mesh together well. But now the page has continued to grow. I mean, I think we're at 157,000 followers on Facebook now and around 75,000 on Instagram. And, it's people will complain, and we understand. We take some of those things into consideration, but the reality is the page continues to grow, and they can't get the content that we provide anywhere else. That's the reality of the matter. So either you follow the page or you don't, or for people that complain and are offended by our content, block the page. That's fine. It's no problem. If you don't want to see our stuff, it's okay. But again, every day our following count continues to go up. People love the content that we put out, and it's Kevin and I working together, getting that done. So maybe we'll bring on some more people. Maybe we'll have a Charlotte County correspondent one of these days, or a couple other people to help us out, which would be better. Because that's the thing, we don't get to everything, which that's the other thing too. When people don't know how many people work for us, they think we're this big team. And well, why didn't you cover this thing over here or what? Sorry, I was in New York City for the weekend, and Kevin was tied up on a thing over. We didn't have someone. We literally didn't have someone available to run to that, or we didn't know about it. Sometimes we'll get a tip late, the next day. Hey, what was happening last night at the 7-Eleven? Did you message us last night at 9 p.m. when you said it was happening? Well, no. Oh, okay. We need those tips. Yeah. So it helps. If we're available and we're around and we can get to it, then we do our best to do. And we do cover a lot of stuff, but yeah, we can't get to everything.
Well, that's an important point, though. How do you learn about things that are happening?
Yeah. So the scanners are a big part of it. Unfortunately, in Lee County, for a number of years now, Lee County Sheriff's Office, Cape Coral Police have been encrypted. That means the public cannot program a scanner to listen to it. You have to have a radio by the manufacturer that they use with an encryption key. That's the only. And if you try to find a way to hack it, it's a federal law. You can't do that. Even if you wanted to, unless you want to be doing something illegal. So that kind of nips us in the butt a little bit when it comes to just being able to hear information on demand. Otherwise, now we're relying on people who know about these incidents to give us that information. Give us an address. Give us a brief, a stabbing here, done. We're there. That's all we need to know. We'll figure out the rest later. We can pull public records reports. We can reach out to the sheriff's office or the police department, whoever's involved for that's investigating for more information if they're willing to provide that. But that's kind of it's in Lee County. Tips have been very important. In Collier, though, Collier County Sheriff's Office is encrypted, but we can listen to the fire and EMS channels. So the majority of your shootings, your stabbings, your fire, we're going to hear all that on those channels because police, Sheriff's Office, fire and EMS, they're all going to the same place. So we're going to find out about those things. But if it's an active police chase, let's say, and they're calling that out over their radios, we're not going to be able to hear that. So those are usually, we know when one of those is happening because we get a lot of messages about those. So that's great. Or we can even use flight tracking apps to track like where the sheriff's office helicopter is maybe circling a lot. Hey, they're circling. They've spent 30 minutes circling this one intersection. There's probably something going on. They wouldn't be doing that for burning gas for no reason. There's probably something going on over there. So there's some different methods, but we've adapted and overcome when it comes to things. And for whatever reason that they had to encrypt, it is what it is. But at the end of the day, we're still going to get the information that we need. And I think they forget that the same people that are notifying them of these incidents, the public, whether it's an accident or whether someone just got shot in the house or what, are the same people who call them are the same people who can send us a message, about something they saw or whatever. Everyone's a witness to these things, and they only know about it because someone told them, typically. So we get our information one way or another. So it works out.
I remember you made that I remember you made that post
Yes.
on Facebook, and you kind of pinned it to the top of the UC Breaking News page. And I texted you. I was like, "What's going on, man?" I was very concerned. I was like, "How are you?
We're dead in the water."
How are you going to keep it up, man? Like, people are going to be really upset. So I'm happy to hear you say, some of the things that you've been saying with regards to, look, certain channels that are still open, right? Still available to us.
Yeah.
But also we've always relied on the general public to bring us that information, right? And you made a valid point. Same people that are notifying the sheriff's department, the police department, sheriff's office, the police department about these things, the same ones that are advising you of it, right?
Yep.
So
and now with the growth of the page, we have followers everywhere. We're literally within minutes, we're finding out about things that we previously either couldn't, or now that we put out kind of that PSA, hey, send us your tips. Now people have been more, because it might just be a natural, they probably already got a message about it. I'm not gonna. Sometimes we get one tip on something. Like last night, there was a stabbing in Lehigh Acres. We got one single tip letting us know that it was going on, and we were right there within minutes. So if you got tips, send them our way. So it's important.
You've got my support, man. Whether that's trying to assist you guys with getting another person to help with all this stuff, or just spreading the word. I love what you guys do. I'm a big supporter of our constitutional rights.
Appreciate that.
Right. And I'm here for you guys being able to talk about the truth as it happens, because that's what the news should be.
Yeah.
It's the truth. Right. And
Definitely.
so whatever you guys need, we're here for it. What else we got? We got some
Yeah, so you said some incidents. Is that
Yeah.
we're getting into that? So let's see. What was kind of the first thing? Let's see here. So we had that hit and run crash last week on 16th Avenue Southwest. So I was a few minutes away. I was 5 minutes away from that when it happened. I was over on Golden Gate Boulevard, so that was close. As soon as that dropped, ran over there, and yeah, there was a man. He was right when I pulled up. The Greater Naples fire truck was already there, so didn't know if I was gonna beat them and have to help out, whatever. That was a big. I'll go back to that a little bit. When I first started doing UC Breaking News, and I was still with the fire department, there was a lot of backlash from the other fire departments in Naples because they were like almost offended that a firefighter would be showing up on the scene and wouldn't be helping out, that he'd be photographing instead. And they were trying to pull like things that there was like a duty to act. And my department and our area doesn't have that kind of law or policy where if you're a firefighter and you're trained, you have to show up on the scene, you have to do something while you're there. But they just didn't like that I had a camera and didn't like that or a drone, and didn't like that I was documenting these incidents. But the reality of it was, if they're already there working in their gear, and I'm not going to go and interfere. I'm going to stand back, and if I'm taking some pictures for the news, that's what I'm doing. I'm not going to pull up and, hey man, do you need me to grab the hose and my shorts? Like that's so it was a weird time but it quickly settled. But
you were still working for the
because
Let
me think. So December 2017 when I started the page, I was still with Immokalee until May of 2019. So there was about almost a year and a half there of overlap. And my chiefs were perfectly fine with it. They loved what I did. They loved that I was doing it on my days off. It helped, it was good experience for me to be able to continue doing what I was doing with the fire department as far as their social media stuff. So it was great. They had no problem with it. But some people they don't like, they don't like news media. They don't like cameras around. I don't know. It's weird. It is what it is. I'm not looking. And again, actually considering that I'm in the industry at the time, it's kind of the guy you want to be. He's not there to make you to look bad. He's not one of those, First Amendment auditor people that's trying to like, hey, you're parking in the fire lane, or, trying to catch people slipping, or trying to make people look bad, or, we're just there to document. We're there to show the community, actually to kind of, really to feature what first responders do and what first responders have to deal with. We hear a lot about PTSD from seeing these things, whatever. Not that I'm trying to give other people PTSD from having to see these things as well, but it really puts a lot of emphasis and respect on the hard work that these men and women do, from police officers to deputies to firefighters to EMS personnel, even the dispatchers who have to be on the phone with these people and are sitting up, in a communication center, who don't ever get to meet these people, who never maybe might not hear the outcome. A lot of the dispatchers actually follow the page because that might be the only visual that they get of a bad wreck or of a scene that they had to literally speak to the person that was involved, and had to take that information down and get the first responders to the right place. So it's one of those things that I wanted to make sure that I was putting a great emphasis on the work that these men and women do. And it was unfortunate that at first there was some pushback and it wasn't appreciated in that sense. But in time it worked out, and we have a pretty good working relationship now with the individuals that I encounter when I'm at these scenes. I mean, oftentimes it's, hey, you see breaking news? Is that you? Oh, okay, yeah. I'm gonna see it on your page later. Or that's every morning I wake up and I'm sitting on the toilet and I'm checking your app and seeing what happened overnight. Or we've had plenty of people in the industry tell us that, and we appreciate that. So it's nice that it's been a good resource for people.
So with this hit and run, what do we know about it? Is the person all right?
Yeah, so they were seriously injured in this, and very quickly the Highway Patrol were able to apprehend the suspect involved. I mean, when I was standing there, again,
So you were on the scene.
yeah. So the engine company was already there. They were treating the patient. EMS rolled up. They quickly got them packaged up. They called in med flight to transport them up to Gulf Coast Medical Center up in Fort Myers, which is our local trauma center, where anyone that's involved in these incidents, that's where they typically go, unless they need to go to a local hospital to be stabilized first, of course.
Well, why would they go there as opposed to somewhere like NCH or Physicians Regional?
So we'll touch on that, and then that actually comes up a lot in the comments. That's debated upon. Naples or Collier County needs a trauma center. The reality is that trauma centers and their staff and their equipment, they need to be used regularly. And if you put 2 trauma centers, let's say, in an area where the population and the needs of that don't meet the criteria, then people end up getting rusty, essentially, or just don't see the volume of patients that they should. Yes, and you might get access to care a little bit faster, but then the care might be diminished. So it really makes sense, and these things are all planned out. The people that know much more than me are in charge of where trauma centers are located and how much and what equipment and what doctors are needed for a certain area. And when it comes to a certain thing, helicopters can get people to places very quickly. So if they need to go to a trauma center, they're going to Fort Myers. If it's something more serious, or let's say they're already halfway out on Alligator Alley where this incident occurs, they'll take them over to Miami. Or if they need a burn center, they're going to go take them up to Tampa. We don't need a burn center in every place, because you have these people that are they're trained, they're specialized in doing these things, and know their industry very well. And you're going to get the best of the best care when that occurs. So we do hear that a lot in the comments. I
said that too. I think I messaged you.
You're like, isn't this valid? And I'm like, it'd be nice if now that's the catch-22. If you had the volume, you don't want the volume. You don't want the volume to be there to where you need another trauma center. Yeah. If it needed to happen, it would. But for now, Gulf Coast does serve the needs. Used to be Lee Memorial, and a few years back, then the trauma center moved over to Gulf Coast, and they have state-of-the-art equipment and doctors and staff there to take care of the needs of people, and it hasn't been a big contributing factor not having one in Naples. And you hear this too. Let's say you have someone who's critically injured, perhaps in Lehigh or in Naples. They might take them to a hospital in Naples or the hospital in Lehigh first, and that's to stabilize them. If they're too far gone, then there's nothing taking them to the trauma center wouldn't have made a difference anyway, unfortunately. So again, the people who know much better than us are in charge of responding to these incidents. They're trained. They know what the people need. And if they can get them to a trauma center in a timely manner and it makes sense, they will do so. But if the person is already very critically injured, they're going to take them to the nearest facility where that equipment is, try to stabilize them, try to, let's say, resuscitate them if there's already CPR in progress or whatever the case may be. And then if they can stabilize them and get them to a trauma center, they're going to do that. But if not, and they succumb to their injuries there, then that's the reality of the situation, So it's a case-by-case basis.
So as far as we know, for this first incident, this guy he's
seriously injured. As far as I know, there was no update from the Highway Patrol that his injuries were any more serious.
Is this first pick? Is that where this incident
no. So if you want to maybe swipe to your iPad, because I put them up on there for you.
Yeah.
So those top images. So you can see our friends there at Greater Naples Fire and Collier EMS were working on him there, getting him on the stretcher, getting him packaged up. So apparently he was just walking there on the side of the road, right there on 16th Avenue Southwest, very dark area of the road, and he was hit.
Remind me, what city was this in? Is this in Naples?
It's Golden Gate Estates.
Okay,
technically.
Yeah, it looks familiar.
So out off 23rd, out White Boulevard, out east that way. And we talk about these crashes and we talk about prevention. Should someone have, for whatever reason, hit them? No. Could that have been avoided? Sure. Should the person have fled after hitting them? No. Stay at the scene. It's going to be a lot better for you. But should someone have been walking in the dark on a 2-lane road with a narrow bike lane? There's so many things there that really play into these, and you could break this thing down.
I would tell you, I love to take walks throughout the day, but especially at night.
Yeah.
It is not nearly as hot,
No,
right?
I agree. It's go to Baker Park or something. Why are we walking on the side of 16th Avenue?
Who wants to drive? You know how far the Estates is
No,
from Baker's Park?
I know, but now you're in the hospital because someone was. See, that's so that's the flip side. You can't trust people. You have to think about who you're sharing the roadway
That's
with.
fair.
You know, you're walking on the street. You're not wearing I didn't see a reflective vest, on the road when I was there. I didn't see a light. So was he doing anything to prevent it? I don't know. But at the same time, why are we trusting people? Because there's a lot of incidents where it's like, okay, it's a freak thing that happens, but there's times where it's very preventable, especially on the case of a pedestrian where you got to help yourself out, look both ways before you cross the street.
You know what you sound like right now? You sound like you'd make a very good defense attorney. All right? You sound like you'd be that guy that works for the insurance company that is going to say, hey, look, I understand that you're suing us for our client screwing you up, but you could have done something here to freaking de-escalate this, if you will.
Well, okay,
which, from a defense perspective, is a fair thing to say. But I
was on the other side of it, and anyone can look it up because I'm pretty sure it's public record, whatever. I was in Estero, and I would do Uber from time to time because I would keep my gear in the trunk. I'd be driving Uber. My license plate is UCBN. So sometimes people get in the car and they'd recognize the plate. And you're the guy, so it would lead to good conversations. But anyway, I was in a community up in Estero, and some girl came. I was making a turn. She was on her bicycle, looking down on her phone with her AirPods in, and she sideswiped my car. I stopped immediately. I checked on her. Are you all right? Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. She was kind of banged up. Her bike was a little bent up. She hit my side view mirror and it kind of scraped up the side of my car. And you want me to call 911? No, it's fine. I'm right down the street. I'm gonna go home. Okay, no problem. 4 or 5 times. Do you need 911? Can I help you? Is there anything we can do? Gave her my name and number. If you need anything, reach out. Let me know. Left it at that. 45 minutes later, I'm getting a phone call from Lee County Sheriff's Office. Why did you flee the scene of a crash? What? Like, what are you talking about? Oh yeah, we're here with a woman here who said you hit her and you fled the scene. No, first of all, you're calling me because I provided my number to her, so I didn't flee the scene. I obviously stopped. I got dash cam video. I'll show you. Let's talk about it.
Let's get it.
Okay. So gave her my email address, sent her the dash cam video that clearly showed that no light. It was right around sunset time. No lights on the bike. Looking down on her phone. Not listening for cars. The AirPods, they got noise cancellation. Not doing anything to help herself. As far as trying to avoid an accident or a collision with a vehicle on a residential street.
Yeah.
Of course, sued my insurance, whatever. They handled it, settled. Whatever. So it worked out. But again, I've been on the other side of it where it's like insurance was going to take care of it, so it didn't affect me personally. But still. Why? Let's do something to help. I grew up my whole life riding my bike, until I could drive. And I was riding my bike everywhere, all across Naples. Look both ways. Maybe be on the sidewalk instead of the bike lane in certain areas. Even though there's a bike, you have the right to be on that bike lane, but maybe let's not, or if you're coming opposite of traffic and someone's looking the other way and you're coming down the sidewalk, barreling right towards them, and they're definitely not looking at you because they're looking at opposing traffic to see when they can pull out. Maybe don't pull out right in front. I don't want to get hurt. I'm not interested. I'm not in the business of getting hurt if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
I
think most people aren't in that business, right? They would
do whatever I want.
They would try
it's
to
my
avoid.
Road.
They would try to avoid bodily harm,
right,
if they can.
Sure.
In that instance, she may have been, a little bit negligent in the way she was, driving the bike.
Mm-hmm.
I can't say from my perspective, that it happens one way more than the other. I can tell you that I have people that come to me, and I've represented several pedestrians that are like, "Hey, I was just riding my bike. I was crossing, this major way, and someone is pulling out underneath the light. They're not looking in my direction, right? They're looking out in the other one, and I get hit." and they left the scene. I think I had 2 hit and run pedestrian bicyclist accidents in the past 7 months that have come through my door.
Wow.
Those are a little difficult because, as you can imagine, you don't have any information to go off of, right? They're gone unless the police officer can find them, right? Or unless I can find them by going to a local, gas station or business and judging up some video footage, right? They're typically gone, and it's hard to recover in those types of instances. Right. But yeah, you're giving a different perspective, right? Someone who's in the car versus someone who's not really paying attention on their phone or listening to music. I don't know that we know what happens here, but what I can tell you in those instances is do not leave the scene. If you find yourself in this scenario,
it's not worth it.
Whatever the reason is for you leaving the scene, do not leave the scene. You will make things a lot worse for you, right? There are penalizations underneath Florida law just for leaving the scene of an incident, right? Irrespective of what the underlying, cause of action is there, unless you're just completely in the right and you didn't do anything wrong. But if there's something there, if you were negligent in any sort of way and you leave the scene, right, that can be a second-degree misdemeanor. It can be a first-degree misdemeanor. It can be a second-degree felony or first-degree felony, right? And there are different implications for those, right? Sometimes it's a slap on the wrist. You still have a criminal record, right? When you're dealing with misdemeanors, if it's a second degree one. Sometimes it's a lot more serious, right? If it's a second degree felony or a first degree felony, you're looking at time. And I'm talking about maximum 15, 30 years, right? So if you find yourself in that type of situation, people will leave the scene for various reasons, right? They'll panic. They're just afraid, right? Yeah. Like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And their minds can't connect to the reality of it, right? Other reasons, right? Maybe alcohol involved, drugs involved. Hey, I was on my phone or something like that. There may be some level of negligence, right? And negligence is a deviation from, what a reasonable person would do in that scenario, right? And so there may be multiple reasons why someone leaves the scene, but it's never, 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 never worth it, right? Because you're just making things a lot worse. I remember I think you reported on one where there was actually an attorney a few years ago. Did you report on that story where there was this attorney locally in Naples who hit someone, and she left the scene, and the police only caught it because I think her daughter said something in front of their Ring camera when they got home. Do you remember that? It was a young
I don't think
woman.
It's one we covered, but
okay.
I'm trying to.
So it was a young woman. She was attorney locally here in town. I think they actually just came to a ruling back in December on her. She was guilty, of course, as far as I can recall. If she wasn't, we're gonna edit this out, right, you guys? But I'm pretty sure she was guilty, and I think they sentenced her as well. But she was an attorney at a pretty prominent firm locally, and she hit someone and she left the scene. I think she may have been out with some coworkers or some friends prior to that. They may or may not have had drinks, right? And whether she realized it or not that she hit someone, I don't know. But that made things 1,000 times 100%. Worse, right? Because she was blasted on the news for it. Obviously, someone in that scenario died, which is the absolute worst scenario. And so, but the fact that she left the scene and then she got home and her daughter said something on it that could be heard on the Ring camera, which is why the police were able to, to pinpoint down that it was her that hit this gentleman. It's just not a good scenario, right? So there are multiple reasons why someone may leave the scene, but it's never worth it. Well, in a scenario like this, you guys, if that happens, just stay. Okay, whether there's drinking involved, which you should never be drinking and driving. We have way too many resources.
Call an
Uber, right? What's the other one? Uber, Lyft. We have a cab. Right, we have way too many resources for anyone to have an excuse. When I go out drinking with my girlfriend, she doesn't drink at all. She does not like alcohol. She doesn't drink it. I have her drive back home, right? And so, too many things available to you guys to be doing silly things like that. One, someone could get hurt. Two, you may end up on UC breaking news. You don't
might.
want
Yep.
you don't want that incident plastered on there because people in the comments are ruthless. So, but the most important thing is you want to be safe for other people and safe for yourselves.
Definitely.
Right.
I was going to just touch on how this case kind of worked out. I just pulled up the specifics. So we had a press release from Highway Patrol. So this incident was on June 10th, 9:38 p.m. is when they got the call. So it was a 2014 Land Rover SUV, male, 51 years old. His name was Mangel Mark. Don't know if I'm pronouncing it, but Mark's his last name. Mangel Mark, 51 years old, and of Naples, obviously not injured, hit and run. And he's under arrest for leaving the crash scene involving serious bodily injury, reckless driving. Oh, and then this speaks to maybe why he fled. He had an out-of-county warrant. So
warrants are another reason.
Wasn't
right?
interested in dealing with the law, but they caught up with him that same night, I believe. Yes, they located the vehicle at an apartment complex at 8245 Ibis Club Lane. Highway Patrol's amazing. They can. I mean, I don't know what what resources they all have access to, but I mean, within hours. You have something where you're like, yeah, the guy's gone, and within hours they have an arrest and they have the vehicle and you can see the damage, broken headlight, or like they figure these things out very, very. Oh yes, vehicle one had a shattered windshield and large dents on the hood portion, so that helped to connect the vehicle to the incident. And I will make a correction: the pedestrian sustained critical injuries, not just serious, so critical injuries. But then he was hit with that serious bodily injury charge. So they say
did he make it? Did
there was no update. So typically the Highway Patrol, if it happens within reason, if someone were to succumb to their injuries, they'll typically put out an update that unfortunately on this date or time, whatever, the person did pass away, from their injuries. But typically if we don't receive an update, it's safe to say that they might be still in the hospital or they're recovering, from that.
Okay.
The male was 65 years old that was hit. So yeah.
Well, hopefully by the time we post this podcast, we'll have an update, a solid update.
That'd be good.
As to what happened with that guy. But prayers for the families.
Of course.
Prayers for anyone that we discussed today. I know that there are a couple of deaths as well. So yeah, never an ideal situation when things can be avoided. What else we got?
Let's see. So we've got another recent incident. So this one was in Estero. Let's see here. Happened on US 41.
Who arrived on the scene? Was it you or Kevin?
Kevin was on the Estero one.
Okay.
So like I said, that's kind of in the middle for us, where if he's available, he'll pop down to Estero. But if I'm, it happened right outside Coconut Point. So that's close enough for me as well if I need to run up there. So this is on June 8th. So a couple days before the last one we just spoke about, 2:13 p.m., US 41 and Palma de Coco Drive, which is one of the entrance streets to Coconut Point. So let me pull up the photos here so I kind of see what we're talking about. The drone came in very handy on this scene. And if we look at that first, let's see here. You might have to click through a few.
Is it?
No, keep going.
Is it this one?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, we can start with that one. So 2024 Ford Transit van being driven by a 67-year-old female from Naples. So you can see the serious damage to the left front. I mean, the front end just completely crushed in.
She the only one in that vehicle?
Yes, and she was killed, unfortunately.
Okay.
So her vehicle ended up there in the ditch. Look at that next photo, and that was a 2011 Ford pickup truck. Looks like an F-250 or an F-350.
So that's the car that hit her.
Yes. Again, you can see the front end. The axle completely ripped out from the front end of that pickup truck. Ended up there near the median. So kind of looking at the synopsis of this one, vehicle one, and when FHP does their reports, vehicle one is typically the vehicle at fault that they're speaking about. So vehicle one, that Ford truck, was traveling north on US 41 in the right lane at a high rate of speed, and it was approaching Palma de Coco Drive. So it's passing Coconut Point going north on 41. Now, vehicle two, which was that Ford Transit van, was in the process, it says, of turning right from the stop sign intersection of Palma de Coco Drive onto northbound US 41. So it appears that she turned into the path of that pickup truck. But again, the reason that the pickup truck would be at fault is because of the speed. And we see this a lot with motorcycle crashes, where people in the comments especially will go back and forth regarding a vehicle that's pulling out, maybe making a left-hand turn, but does so in front of a motorcycle, but that isn't going at 45 miles an hour or 50 miles an hour, is going at 100 miles an hour or higher. And maybe it's dark and have one little headlight on the front. You're not giving yourself any much chance of survival when you're traveling at such a high rate of speed and you're pulling out in front of a vehicle that the person can't judge your speed, they can't judge your closing distance, so you have issues there. So it says the front of vehicle 1, the pickup truck collided with the left side of vehicle 2, as you can clearly see from that damage. The woman was actually ejected and pronounced dead at the scene. And then there was a third vehicle involved.
So her body ended up outside of the vehicle.
Yeah, she was in the ditch there next to the van. I mean, you could just tell from that front end that it was just so tore up. And there was a third vehicle, a Jeep driven by an Estero man. He had minor injury. He was kind of caught up in the post-collision, after that initial collision between the truck and the van. Yeah, go ahead.
You said something interesting, and this is, and I want to take a step away from this particular incident, right? Because I don't want to make any allegations with regards to liability, personally as an attorney. But when you're taking a look at a crash report, I have people that come to me sometimes, and they're like, "Look, hey, I was involved in an accident, but this crash report reads completely wrong. This is not how the accident happened," right? They'll come to me very, very concerned. They're like, my first priority is to get this record straight. Right. One of the things that I tell them, is, the crash reports can be helpful, right? To an insurance adjuster, right? When they're making an initial assessment as to liability or fault of their own insured or someone else's insured, if you have uninsured motorist coverage. But they're not always accurate. And one of the things is they're not admissible when it comes to litigation, right? So I'm seldom concerned about what a crash report says. Because one, sometimes officers make mistakes, as great as they are, and we have some pretty good ones locally, right? Both in Lee County and Collier County. But they're not always right? And sometimes they're only getting one side of the story. I have people that, come to me that speak only Spanish or only Creole. And they're like, look, the officer didn't really ask me any questions, right? Not for a lack of trying from the officer, but probably because there wasn't someone to translate in the meantime. So they only got one side of the story from someone who speaks English. And so that's what they put in the narrative. And so, you may be sitting at home and you may be saying, well, look, I have no case because this crash report says that I'm at fault, which may completely upset you, right? As it should, if it's inaccurate. But that should not be a deterrent from you trying to seek recovery for something that wasn't your fault. Specifically, if it was property damage or bodily injury insurance, right? If you're involved in an accident, and you are worse off than you were before that accident, right? Because of whatever the property damage may be, or because you were hurting and your body's just not the same. The reason why you have an insurance is to take care of instances like this, right? And that's the reason why the other person has insurance as well. So sometimes people get discouraged and they're like, well, I'm not a litigious person. I don't want to make a claim.
That's what it's there for.
Yeah, but that's exactly what it is. And I've told my mom that multiple times. She's like, well, someone did this to my car and stuff like that. I'm like, Mom, you buy insurance. The other person buys insurance so that they can cover for things like this without it having to be out of their pocket. Will your insurance premiums go up? Maybe. Sometimes they do. Sometimes they don't. Right. But if you're looking at a crash report and you're making a determination as to whether you want to make a claim or not, I don't know that should be the defining mark for you. I don't know if that should be the thing that tells you, yes, I should or I shouldn't, right? People come to me and they say, hey, it says this. I'm like, it's okay. We'll work with it. Yeah. It's fine. It's not the end of the story. Unfortunately for, the lady involved here, I don't know how this is going, if it's in court, if it's, if they filed a civil lawsuit with regards to it. But you look at photos like this, you look at videos, the ones that you've taken, and how things progressed and transpired in the incident. And it tells a story in and of itself, right? And so, you do a good job when you go out of these scenes and you capture this, because someone may be able to use it in the future.
And we've had that happen multiple times. Where
I've used it when I've had people reach out to me from UC breaking news.
We've had attorneys, we've had private investigators, we've had family in Mexico who they reach out and it's in Spanish and I have to translate it. No problem. I don't know Spanish, but I can translate. We got Google Translate, whatever.
Let's say you speak Spanish.
And I'm like, they're asking for. They said your photos. Let's say we have one case where there's a man who was struck on a bicycle and he was killed, and our photos were the only photos and videos that they could find of the incident, and they just wanted some closure. They just wanted to see what happened and a little bit of background just so they could visualize what happened to our loved one in America. And we were able to provide that to them. So that is the nice thing about the internet. It brings people together. Unfortunately, it was a sad situation. But I mean, there's plenty of times where the high quality photos and videos and content that we get have been useful in a plethora of situations in telling that person's story. In this case, in Estero, Ian Nigel Nabs, he was 35 years old of Bonita Springs. He had no incapacitating injuries, but he was arrested for vehicular homicide and DUI manslaughter. So I guess they were able to find that he was driving under the influence in that case.
And I want to
at 2:30 in the afternoon.
I want to
2:13.
Touch on a point. I said it earlier, but you guys, DUI crashes are absolutely avoidable. They are. We have way too many resources for anyone to be hopping behind the wheel, having had any level of alcohol in them. And sometimes you may think you're fine, right? And you may very well be fine. But if you get pulled over and you have alcohol in your system, it does not help. It does not. And us as a community have to make sure that we're looking out for one another. And one of the ways that we can avoid DUI crashes is if we see someone, probably, use some sense in you, right? You don't know people sometimes, but, if you're at a bar and you're a bartender and you see someone has too much, probably cut them off. There's just no way there's no reason why this should be happening, right? There's no reason why this poor lady should have lost her life. It's broad daylight out. And so, we can do better as a community. We can hold each other accountable as we should. But DUI crashes are not like the weather. They're not like mechanical issues. Sometimes those things are, unavoidable, right? This is something that you can't avoid. Shy of you being drugged and forced behind a wheel, it's completely avoidable.
Certainly.
So,
we have that third case, just very tragic incident. So this was on May 31st, so a couple weeks back now, 3:54 a.m. A lot of people heard about this one. This was at the 107 mile marker of I-75, just north of the Pine Ridge Road exit here in Collier. So we had a box truck. It was traveling.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, before you continue with that story, I just want to make a point. I think some people may be confused going back to the DUI crash. There are two different types of cases you typically can have. Well, three really. There are administrative, there are civil cases, and there are criminal cases. Sometimes people look at these DUI crashes like, okay, well, there's a criminal case that's going on. Can I still bring a civil case? You can. There's nothing that stops you from bringing a civil case while there is a criminal case pending, okay? That's absolutely something you can do. Both of those things can happen at the same time. Sometimes some attorneys like to wait until the criminal case ends to see how that goes. But different causes of action, right? Different standards. So you definitely can bring those at the same time. But go ahead and
no, yeah,
continue
of course.
with the third one.
No, I appreciate you adding that in. So we had let me swipe over here now so I can take a look at that. So there was a box truck that was heading south on I-75, approaching Pine Ridge. And for whatever reason, the vehicle drifted off the roadway, veered back onto I-75, and then overturned, blocking the center and outside travel lanes. And you can see that in the photo there. The truck was partially, kind of by the shoulder, and then traveling, blocking that middle and outside lane. Now, a BMW, not involved in the crash, a 25-year-old gentleman there from Naples, he stopped to help. He was concerned. It's 4 a.m. almost. And
I remember this one. That was that big one, yeah.
Yeah, you have a truck on its side, and let's see if the guy's okay. Driver of that vehicle. And he's 31 years old, minor injuries. That was for the truck driver. But while they were there, another vehicle, a 2023 Tesla, basically T-boned or ran into the side of the overturned pickup truck. And I'm looking at my notes here. Yeah, the front of the vehicle collided with the underside portion of the overturned box truck, and essentially the man who had exited his vehicle to help was struck as well by that collision. It doesn't specify if the Tesla hit him or if maybe the box truck was pushed into him. We did have one gentleman who was in our comment section who I guess was there when it occurred. He said that I believe that the box truck was pushed into this individual, this Good Samaritan that came to help out. But unfortunately, the 2 passengers who were not seat belted, from what we gathered, in the Tesla were sustained fatal injuries there at the scene. And then the pedestrian, they're calling the pedestrian, the gentleman who stopped to help, he sustained critical injuries, was transported to an area hospital, and later pronounced deceased. So very tragic
this
situation.
Is a big one. This was a big one last week, a few weeks ago?
Yeah, again, you'd like to say avoidable. For what reason did the box truck overturn? Was it sleepiness? Was it, we're looking at the middle of the night here. So was there something there that could have been done? Blown tire. Who knows? Was it a blown tire? There's always something you could look back to, proper maintenance, whatever it is, that could have avoided that initial issue. But then a gentleman just stopping to help, 25 years old, young man, looking to make sure that he's all right. And unfortunately was caught up when another vehicle, for whatever reason, failed to stop and ran into the underside of the box truck. And unfortunately killed two people in that vehicle as well. So it was a tough situation. There were no charges in this case, from what we saw, at least from the FHP report. But 3 people did pass away, unfortunately. And this was just, again, a couple weeks ago, but very big in the news. A lot of coverage on that one. But we were there as it unfolded, and we're able to document it. So,
yeah, I mean, prayers to the families of each one of those people that lost their lives. I pray for peace, right? Peace of spirit and heart in a trying time. But my big shout out to that guy that hopped out and at least attempted to help, right?
Yep.
Because not a lot of people would do that.
No.
And I know it's easy for some people to say, yeah, I would definitely do that. But a lot of times people just aren't like that, and they're not built like that.
Right.
And my understanding is this guy was, I think, a former Marine or something like that.
Yeah, I'd heard. Yeah, I had seen a picture of him, in the uniform, and yeah, it was just very, very tough for the community.
Yeah.
Local individual.
Big shout out to him, for having the courage to be able to do that, and try and help. I think this story should serve as a very big reminder to people, however, that roadside crashes, particularly on the highway, are very, very dangerous. And I think people need to do everything they can and take every precaution they can to attempt to warn drivers that are down the road, right? Whether that is putting out some of those small yellow cones,
Right.
that people
Flashing
have.
your headlight, whatever you got to do.
Whatever, flashing your headlights,
know?
whatever you have to do to just notify others that there's a major incident like this, right? Only God can say whether, this incident, whether it could have happened any sort of way,
Sure.
other way. But I mean, there are definitely precautions that probably could have gone into place that could have avoided, the triple tragedy that we see here. And I mean, this one was huge. I've seen a lot of the comments on social media. I've seen some of the other news agencies, Gulf Coast News, posting about it. It's just a very, 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 very sad situation that happened late at night. Now, who covered this? Was this you or was this
Kevin was on this one as well. Yeah.
Okay.
So he had the drone up and was getting those shots that everyone's.
How do you hear about these at like 3? This happened like what, 3 in the morning? 1 in the morning?
Yeah. So basically, because we still have the access to the fire and EMS radios in Collier County, AI has been a great tool. We have a tool through Microsoft that basically will listen and transcribe the dispatches that come in and break them down. And basically, we have a system that looks for keywords: vehicle rollover, shooting, commercial structure fire, the different keywords that it's an automated voice that talks, so it's very easy to hear clearly what's being dispatched. It's listening for those keywords, and it'll actually send us. We have an app. It'll send us a message with like a blaring, if we have it on, like a blaring tone that basically lets you know that, hey, this is going on, and we got the address and all the information right there, and just to kind of give us a heads up to listen up instead of having to sit and listen to the scanner. I know before I implemented this, when I first got married a few years ago, there were some nights where I'd go to bed with the scanner by the bed still on, my wife didn't really appreciate it. So it was nice that I was able to. This was nice that I was able to figure something out where I didn't have to sit and listen to the radio all day, and thankfully, we still get the information that we need, and it works out pretty well. But
a question I have here is it's really a question for me, but I'm going to ask it because there may be people out there wondering about it. But it's can someone be liable even if their vehicle wasn't the one that caused harm or killed someone? And the answer to that is yes. A lot of times that question depends on whether the aftermath was foreseeable, right? In a scenario like this, where there's a truck on the middle of I-75, which is a very busy road, probably not at this time of night, but it's a very busy road generally speaking. For whatever reason, this guy, the truck ended up sideways. That in and of itself may have been negligent. It may not have been. I don't know. We don't have the facts right now. They will come out in litigation if there is litigation over this. But for whatever reason, he ended up on his side there. But the potential negligence doesn't stop there. Even if that initial act or even if that initial phase wasn't negligent, let's say that there's just a deer that ran into the middle of the road or something like that, that wasn't his fault, right? It was probably unavoidable, maybe unavoidable, who knows? We'd have to have a lot more facts. But in a scenario where that happens, having been in the vehicle, been driving the vehicle, do you then have a duty to make sure that that other people can avoid this incident as it is? And some would argue yes. And some courts or some juries may rule that yes, there is a duty there. And so that negligence can roll over, right? If it wasn't there previously, you can find yourself there at a second phase because the truck is already the way that it is. And it may be foreseeable that someone else is going to be coming down I-75 and may not be able to see the underside of your vehicle because it's dark or it's black and there are no lights shining in their direction, right? And so because that's foreseeable, if someone such as this Good Samaritan hops out of his vehicle to help, right, and he gets hit by this other vehicle, well, that first vehicle may be implicated as well, right? So you don't necessarily have to be directly the cause of harm. You could be indirectly the cause of harm and still find yourself on the other end of the bad side of litigation, right? And that's being a defendant. And so Who knows in this scenario how that's going to play out? I don't presume to say that there was negligence on that guy. I know that there are different theories, me thinking as a personal injury attorney, that I would definitely come up with. Not to say, that he intentionally caused this. I highly doubt that he intentionally caused this. But, we have to think about our actions. We have to think about the implications of things that happen around us and who that might harm.
Right.
That's why we have Florida laws the way that we do, so that we can protect as many people as we possibly can. Another point I would add is, for people that see something like this and that want to stop by and help, if you want to hop out your car and help, and I think that people, I think it's not a bad thing. If you see someone that is in harm's way, that is hurt, it's not a bad thing to take time out to assist those people. But you have to be very, very, very careful when you do so, right? One of the first things you probably should do is move over to the side of the road, okay? Pull off to the shoulder, as far away from the road as you can possibly get. Call 911 first and foremost. Avoid standing in those travel lanes. You don't want to be, potentially in harm's way of another vehicle that's coming. That's probably coming at a very high rate of speed, 70, 75, 80, 85 miles per hour, or maybe even something a lot crazier, right? There are people that drive on I-75 going 100 miles per hour. And by the time you notice them, it may be too late. So make sure you're not standing in those in the travel lanes, and make sure that you have clear line of visibility of what's going on around you. That's very important. And also, if you have them, hazard lights, whether that's on the vehicle or whether those are small triangle things you can put up.
Whatever you can do.
Put those up so that you can at least warn someone else and give them a fighting chance to be able to avoid whatever's coming up or avoid you as you're trying to assist.
Yeah, certainly. And on the flip side, if you're if you're the one coming down the highway, you got to be looking up. It's rare that there's a box truck laying in the middle of the road, but these things happen, especially on our roadways. We see the prevalence of these crashes and stuff, and people can get complacent, or especially in the middle of the night, you're kind of going along down the road for a little while and are comfortable, but being vigilant at all times to just, since many of these incidents that we talk about are preventable, like we've been saying. We had a point here about recent motorcycle fatalities. I think in the last year, maybe the last 10 months, we've covered about 16 fatal motorcycle involved crashes in the last.
It's a lot.
Yeah, in a little less than a year between the three counties, between Charlotte County, Lee County, and Collier County. Lee County being the majority of them. Different reasons for these collisions. Some recklessness on both parts. We'd seen it the other day with the one in Port Charlotte. The guy was driving a Gator UTV, pretty slow moving vehicle. He was trying to cross the street. It appeared, but a motorcycle, again traveling at a high rate of speed, struck him, killing the motorcyclist. So again, when it comes to these motorcycles, it's very quick to get up to speed and everything. But like my buddy Ethan tells me a lot, he rides all the time, but he's a big supporter of responsible riding. And especially with the kits that he sells, if the unfortunate event were to occur that you are in a crash, do what you can to save your life with the right tools. But riding smart, looking out for other people, and again, that's where it kind of goes back to the pedestrian crashes, where what can you do to avoid being caught up in something, and preventing someone's perhaps inattention or lack of the way they're driving to negatively affect you. We're all sharing the roadway, so.
Do you talk about motorcycle accidents with him often? Yeah.
Basically, because I think he's big in the rider community. So every time, basically, almost every time that I have a crash here in Southwest Florida, I'm reaching out to him, letting him know, hey, we're over here. The bike looks like this. He'll text his buddies. They have group chats and stuff where they try to figure out maybe pretty quickly who it is, so that they can kind of give support to whoever might know him or her, whatever the case may be. So yeah, no, he's big in the local motorcycle community.
I wonder why motorcyclists do the things that they do sometimes, right? So I'll be, in a line at the traffic light, and I see a motorcyclist. They will stop their vehicle not directly behind, but to the side of another vehicle,
Yeah.
right? Not to side, but behind them to the side.
Right.
Is there a purpose behind that?
So you're talking about are they lane splitting? Are they driving on the
two different
So you
things,
see-
right?
Okay.
Sometimes they'll they'll be behind me and they'll cut all the way to the
Right,
front,
right.
right? There's another time though they'll be like to the side, right? They'll be like behind and right in front of me, but like to the side. They're
Yeah.
not parked right behind the other vehicle.
So
right?
with
And I
motors-
only mention that because I think sometimes I get frustrated with motorcyclists.
Yeah.
Sometimes when they're driving, I'm like, why are they doing this?
So I mean, some stuff is totally not warranted, and just to be, adrenaline rush, just to be reckless or whatever the case is, because it's very quick. You can move around on them fast. They're very agile. There's a lot of things you can do with these bikes. But when it comes to, I think what you're talking about, you're vulnerable on a motorcycle. It's just you, and you're very exposed. So typically, I would say, and this is why people lane split, or why people will maybe pull to the side, is to prevent, let's say, a rear end collision, getting sandwiched between two vehicles. If I'm off to the side and I hear someone screeching on the brakes behind me or whatever the case, I could easily dip out, maybe hop off my bike and run to the side, or try to give yourself a chance to get out of a situation, which again would be of no fault of your own. You're just sitting waiting at a light. If you're in a car and someone rear ends you, much better chance of survival. Whereas if you're going to get pinched between two cars sitting on a motorcycle, the odds are not in your favor. The same thing is with lane splitting. Sure, it could be to get ahead, but it's also to prevent those rear end collisions. Now, it's not legal in Florida, lane splitting, like it is in California. I think maybe one other state. I don't have the specifics on that, but it's people do it anyway. But it's for their safety. It's typically not people just trying to get ahead.
Okay.
But it just depends. I mean, everyone's different. But yeah, motorcyclists are vulnerable. There are things that drivers in cars can do things to prevent these accidents, but there's certainly things that motorcyclists can do to tone things down and not drive as recklessly if they care about their life. That's the reality of it. It's a fun hobby. It's great. Wind in your hair. It's great. It's I've never owned a bike. I've never ridden one like that. But a lot of people love it and it's great. But it's unfortunate some of the crashes we've seen due to recklessness on either person's part, where it's been very preventable. Certainly.
That's fair. That makes sense. So let's hit the next segment that you had, and then we can kind of wrap up. So the murder-suicides, I think, is what we're at, segment 5?
Yeah. So murder-suicides have been an unfortunate trending item. In the last few months, we've covered at least 6 where we've been at the scene and dealt with that. Just recently had one in the vineyards here in Naples. And mental health is a big topic. And it's unfortunate that we see people, they're typically domestic. The far majority of murder-suicides are domestic in nature. It's usually someone turning the gun on a family member. Not always a gun, but yeah, with the murder-suicides, typically domestic in nature. Typically someone turning on a family member and then killing themselves, unfortunately. And it's been the issue you have is they typically don't get a lot of media attention because traditional mainstream media doesn't typically cover suicides, and we generally do not cover suicides that would occur maybe at a personal home or something, because it's not criminal in nature. It's not really something that should be just put on blast there for the public. But when they do happen in a more public setting, then we typically do cover them just because we want to be informative to the community as well. So even if it's not something that's criminal in nature, people are still going to wonder, why was that parking lot wrapped up in crime scene tape? Or why was this building shut down because of someone who jumped off a high place or someone who shot themselves in a vehicle or whatever the case may be. You have these different instances. And then if you don't cover it, and you don't speak on the topic, then that starts to lend itself to media sweeping things under the rug, which is what we want to try to get away from. We're trying to keep it raw, keep it uncensored, and be informative to people, and not holding back when it comes to our coverage. Many people have different views on that, don't feel that those things should be shown, but we like to provide equal coverage when it comes to the different incidences that are covered. So with these murder-suicides, don't get a lot of media coverage typically. The sheriff's office might want to kind of diminish the updates that are posted on them. We can pull public records reports, but typically they're heavily redacted, which doesn't allow us to see much information. But we want to make sure that these things are covered. And it also brings awareness to these mental health situations. So can they be prevented? For sure. Are there ones that are prevented that just never happened, so it's never known about? I'm sure, but it's a reality. It's something that we have seen a little bit more of an increase of lately in Southwest Florida. And again, we don't have too many specifics, which makes it difficult to kind of break it down and see what might have been a contributing factor or what could have led to these unfortunate situations, because the person is deceased and they can't be investigated as you would a regular murder. You're pulling someone in for questioning. You're finding out maybe their motive. You're finding out what was behind why they did what they did. But typically with these murder-suicides, that person involved is gone, the suspect. So it can be difficult to try to pinpoint what led them to doing what they did and affecting the lives of others that didn't deserve to have their lives cut short in that sense.
So for this particular one, what was the initial report out for this?
Yeah, so for the one in Lehigh,
because I know you had stated something in your post regarding whether it was, what was it, a husband?
Yeah, so again, a lot of the information that we get is preliminary, which can be difficult. We try to sift through the information we get from the sources that we have and how reliable they are, and try to gauge what we want to share with the public, because we don't want to speak on something that might still be very speculative, but we have a good handle on the information and think that it's something that we can push out, then we will, to at least give people something to chew on, even if it might not be every detail perfectly, and we can try to figure that out later and try to correct it to make sure it's entirely accurate. But typically we have a good sense of what the case is. So in this situation, let's see here. So the initial report was that a man went to the residence to confront his estranged wife's boyfriend. So the initial report was that they were still married. Wasn't his ex-wife. They were still married, but she had a boyfriend. They were estranged. And during that confrontation, the man shot and killed the woman's, so I guess his stepdaughter, the woman's daughter, and then shot the boyfriend in the leg. So that boyfriend ran to a neighboring home. He was able to call 911 or get in touch with authorities. They responded, but before they were able to get there, the man involved, he lit several beds inside of the home on fire, and then he sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound. So the house was on fire when first responders, when deputies initially got there. They had the fire department respond as well, put out those fires. They pulled people out of the building, not knowing if they were alive or not, only to find that the woman, the stepdaughter, was deceased, and then the man who shot himself in the head, who was the original assailant, was deceased as well. From that, it wasn't clear if if they died from the shots or from smoke inhalation. That wasn't made clear. Again, this information was very preliminary, but it kind of gave a little bit more background as to what happened, as opposed to what you'll typically see from the news media is they're just going to relay what the sheriff's office says. And the sheriff's office just says, there was a shooting and it's a murder-suicide, and that's all we're going to tell you because we don't want to tell you anything more. And that's just the way they choose to play it.
Well, this one was a little interesting because we had someone actually call in that claimed to know, I think the young lady that was the shot. She was I think pretty obviously and rightfully so upset,
Of course.
about everything. But I think she wanted to correct us with some of the information that we had put out. Obviously, there was no way for us to verify that or for you to verify that.
Right.
But she did reach out, which I think is good. And I think as far as you're concerned, you would welcome people calling in to
definitely.
provide additional information with regards to things like this that happen, because it helps us be able to verify and put out our own updates, if you will.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's been the biggest thing is the biggest complaint, if you will, is that we don't provide much follow up when it comes to the incidents we cover, and that's just manpower. Again, we're two individuals. We're typically our bread and butter is getting to those scenes as they happen, getting those shots of incidents while they're active. Not showing up hours later and showing you, here's a broken piece of metal that's on the ground from where these cars were sitting. We try to show you what's going on as it happens. And that can cause us to divert our attention away from the follow-up from these incidents that we covered maybe days or weeks prior, which as we build out our staff and bring more people on board, then we'll be able to provide more follow-up and be able to field those calls, field those DMs, get those more information from our viewers who know these people that are affected by these things, and be able to provide a more comprehensive story on these things that we covered, not only from the visual side of it, but also from the storytelling side and making sure that all the details come out. In this case, we'd initially reported from our sources that the girl was 15 years old, but then her friend called in and said she was actually 20 years old, and that she lived in the home and was likely the person that they were talking about, due to it didn't make sense for it to be anyone else in that case. So obviously she was distraught, very close friend of hers, and was reaching out to us to try to get more information because we had put out that update. So we love working with the community. We love continuing to uncover these stories and provide more details than maybe others are willing to do. And we'll see how it goes. But yeah, every case is unique. Every case is different. But it's certainly nice to be that source for those that are looking for more information. Certainly.
Well, I for one enjoy reading your content. I'm a big proponent of freedom of speech and press and being able to do exactly what you do, so long as it keeps the public informed. So I appreciate you and I thank you for everything that you do, and I'm sure every one of your followers, I would hope, could say the same thing, right? I hope that they appreciate what you do and that they continue to support you.
Yeah.
As I know, I'll do my best to support you. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I hope I can join you for more of these podcasts if you intend on doing them in the future. I see an opportunity for you to be able to grow your brand. Mm-hmm. If there's anyone out there that follows UC Breaking News and loves what they do, please share it with your friends, share it with your family on social media. The more that you grow, the bigger that your following is, the better it is going to be for you, with a slew of your different schemes on how to make a living out of this and how to support the community. So I'm here to support you. Obviously, I'm in your corner, and we'll do the very best that we can. Do want to give a shout out to the Warren again. If you guys haven't been here, It is an amazing spot. The lounge is membership only, but I'm sure they wouldn't mind giving you a sneak peek if you asked very, very kindly. Can't speak for them. I don't know that to be true, but just putting that out there. Wonderful spot in here, but the food is amazing as well. I absolutely love it. I've been here quite a few times. Shout out to Sugarshack. Wonderful guys back there that are doing this podcast for us. They've got a very, very legit setup. I know that when we had originally talked about doing a podcast, you were a little iffy because you wanted to make sure that it represented UC Breaking News, right?
You've got to do it. Got to do it right.
Yeah, I obviously wanted to make sure it represented Joseph Law right as well. I do consider us a professional professional firm, higher end, even though we do personal injury, higher end firm as well. And so Sugarshack is just the guys to match that aesthetic. So if you guys have any needs with regards to, videoing anything, I don't know how many weddings they do anymore. Okay, they're giving me a head. They're giving me a no. They don't do weddings anymore. All right, well, no weddings. But I mean, if you got other stuff, I'm sure if you throw enough money at them, they may reconsider that. Maybe, maybe not. Who knows? But they do a phenomenal job. I've had them do some of my content for my website. You can go to my website, forthetimes.law, see that content. We're about to update it with some more content. And so they do a phenomenal job with that stuff. I imagine they're going to do a phenomenal job with this podcast. You guys will let us know in the comments. If, you guys have nothing but horrible things to say, they were not the ones that did this podcast.
It was all our fault.
Yeah, we just did it on our iPhones and Android phones. But this is a lot of fun. I mean, I'd love to do more of these. Maybe we can get some other guests on, some other individuals, whether that's, police officers, sheriff's department, psychiatrists, business owners, whatever it may be. And I'm just going to throw that out there on behalf of Alex. If you guys, want to end up on this podcast, and it makes sense, reach out. If you see something that's going on locally, reach out, right? That's going to help him out a lot. And it's going to spread the word about UC breaking news. Anything you want to end with?
It's just he's our biggest supporter. So for the times you need an attorney, Mark Joseph is your man. That's it.
I love that.
But it's really he's single-handedly supporting everything that we're doing right now. And I we see the little blurb at the bottom of the Facebook post and Instagram post, but it's much more than that. And because of the kind of guy he is, trying to keep things professional, whatever. We've never wanted our page to be spammy or too in your face with this kind of stuff. We really want to keep it with the news. So those subtle things are there. But again, he's put a lot of time and effort into supporting our operation and making sure that we stay running and we stay on top of these stories. So we're going to keep plugging along, keep doing our thing. And of course, tips are important. And it doesn't matter. Every message counts, and we take those. And I think we're gonna have some billboards up soon. Maybe we're looking into that. Maybe a couple of billboards around.
We
town.
have been talking about that. So, not in Naples. I don't think we have too many. We may have a few
Naples
in East Naples, but the county is very strict about that stuff. But Lee County is
you got more
a lot more
up
open
there anyway too. So
we'd
like to just continue putting the brand out there, making sure that people know that we're a source for news here. There's some that don't think we are, some in the government or in other places that think that we're not legit or that we don't tell our stories well or we don't have good content. But we're going to continue to push against that narrative and make sure that we're continue to bring the high quality content that we've brought for the last eight and a half years. So, and
there may be growth, right? You guys may they may find themselves, exploring the different type of content. A lot of what they do now is, car accidents, property damage, fires, right? Yeah. Stuff like that. But that
we have the following. So
that may transform
in any direction. Yeah, for sure.
And they may take on more if they've got more staff. So, keep riding in UC Breaking News' corners.
That's it.
Yep. Perfect.
Good stuff.
Thanks, man. It's been great.
You. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.